So a couple of weeks ago, I showed you photos of my studio and went through all the details. This time, it's your turn to say,
behold my stuff.
So it's your turn to say, behold my stuff. Okay, we're going to start off with photos from Jerome. So I did have questions specifically for this that I didn't remember to ask everyone. What do you like most about your studio and what are you looking to improve? And so Jerome said, I'm able to get at most things quickly, and what he needs to improve is acoustic treatment on the walls and ceiling, as well as foam under the monitors. Lots of old stuff in this, which is cool. Definitely stuff that he's had and used for many years. Jerome, are you still here? I think you were here earlier, but I haven't seen you in a bit. Digi 192. I'm not sure this interface here. There's another, like, these are pretty old. PreSonus Digimax. I think this is a Mackie Onyx interface. That's a Focusrite Scarlett. I see a Bryston power amp, probably for the studio monitors, which are maybe events or something like that. Alesis graphic EQ, some other mic preamps and stuff like that. So lots of like kind of old gear, a big old DVD drive, an old Mac Pro, or what it was called, G5, something like that. But yeah, this is like great stuff in mid 2000s. This is like pro studio stuff in maybe mid 2000s. So the 192s were out, had just come out when I went to audio school in 2006. And they were like top of the line, the best you can get. Not flashy, but very functional setup. I really like it. Yeah. Hey, RT, how's it going? Yeah, good. It's good stuff. It's just, it's for today's standards, it's kind of old. And the 192 has proprietary connectors and it's not going to work probably on any modern Macs. So I think there's a MacBook Air here in this dock. So that might be the main system. And then this is older stuff to an older Mac to run, older version of Mac OS and running these other things. So if I had to guess at what he's actually using right now, it's probably going to be the Scarlett 18i20, I would guess, is the model, and the MacBook Air, and then everything else is disconnected, if I had to guess. Don't use the G5 and Digi stuff much at all. I didn't think so. It was a studio and school in Vancouver that shut down recently, and it seemed like they couldn't even give away the 192s, which is very unfortunate because they were not cheap to begin with. I'm curious, were you the first owner of that? And if I haven't said it already, thank you for submitting photos. I think you were the first to send in a photo. There's a second photo here of the guitar gear. I don't recognize this. I think that's a Samson logo there. I'm guessing a headphone amp or monitor controller. Line 6, I think, is that one of the tube models of the Line 6? Blackstar amp, another Line 6. I don't know the bass. Possibly Ibanez, floating bridge, Fender, and a couple of Fenders. Is this one here, this black one, is that a DIY build? I don't see a headstock logo. You've got a pod going into a Line 6, and you've got that Korg thing you mentioned, that Korg pedal you mentioned a few weeks back. Yeah, it's cool stuff. Samson C Control, I have used that actually. I didn't like it, but yeah, maybe that's why it's unplugged. JTV varying guitar with a new neck. Okay. I don't know what that is. Variax. Oh, Variax. The Variax was a guitar that had sort of a multiple guitar emulation built in, so you could make it sound like a 12-string acoustic and things like that, right? You can switch between like Strat tone, humbuckers, all these different things. It's neat. I never got to play one. I heard they are actually pretty decent. And just addressing like what's missing in here, I would try to get the whole setup away from the walls a little bit, get like walking distance between them, like 18 inches or so, but behind the walls. These are front ported, so it's not as big of a deal. It's still going to sound better if you get them away from the walls. You're going to need the room for the acoustic treatment there. And that is, I'm pretty sure you know this. Get some acoustic treatment there on that wall and the wall behind you if you can, and ceiling. You've got carpeting, so it's a little bit of treatment, but mostly untreated. The speaker position might actually need to be further away as well. If this was my setup and I had these two racks, I like these racks a lot. I would get them to be at a bit of an angle, maybe tilt them outward, so this back corner is further away by 20 degrees, 15 degrees, and then make a custom desktop that goes in between. That would give you more room for your screen and give you better distance for the monitors, probably. So you can have like a shelf. You could have a shelf for the monitors or your screen, and probably a better height for the desk. I would keep the racks, but just make a custom desk that goes between the mounts to it and makes it all sturdy. And then I would guess that when you're sitting here, it's hard to see anything like on channel 1 of the Scarlett. So tilting it inward would give you better line of sight for things that you adjust. That's what I'd do. If you're handy, I don't know if you are. This photo is from Delovely, who didn't exactly submit this photo to me, but she posted it on Twitter this week. And there's some cool stuff. It's definitely a nice vibe. Big curtains, floor-to-ceiling curtains for this window. And then we've got some Kali monitors, running Reaper. This is, I can't remember. I think it's a Yamaha keyboard. She's a gamer. She's playing Baldur's Gate 3. And there's a bit of a mess in here in general. She's posted photos of her setup over the past year on Twitter, and so this is the most recent one, and definitely the best layout that she's had so far. I would suggest get this away from the window a little bit further. Get that sub right in the middle behind. I know everyone says subs are omnidirectional and it doesn't matter the placement, but I find it actually is critical to get it centered. Otherwise, one of your speakers is going to sound more bassy than the other. So get it right in the middle, like mine, and you can put your feet up on it, and it's super nice to have a footrest. There's a bit of cable mess, like we all have. It's unavoidable. I like this desk that has these monitor stands built in. I would just make sure that the left and rights are the same distance. This one seems closer. So I would push those back all the way if possible. I don't know if they adjust angles. It seems like they do. But I would make sure that those are, back and to the left or to the right as far as possible. Exactly the same height. Depending on the height of your chair, might consider tilting them on their side so that the tweeter's on the outside. And it seems like your monitors are not centered well. It doesn't bother me too much. Yeah, just, clean up your room, dude. Delovely, thank you for sending in the photo. Okay, we've got Davi, and this is their home studio. Very cool layout. I like it. It's lots of space. This is basically the living room, and here is the other room that it's attached to. So they've split this big room into two sections, kind of like what I've done with mine, but more open. So they can see into the living room. They can probably see the TV. They can see out the window, all that stuff. So nice home theater setup with surround sound, all that stuff. Not great to have the back speaker wire going under a carpet. You should go around the room, around the perimeter. That's the best way. These speakers must sound great. And you've got a bunch of record players, I noticed. I didn't notice record collection. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so you've got a fairly large record collection on this IKEA shelf. Oh, it's 3 IKEA shelves. I like this shape for the shelf. That's really cool. I'm using a similar shelf for my side wall. This wall here is actually one of those IKEA shelves, or 2 of them. Slightly different, a taller one, I think. It's 4 shelves high. Anyway, this isn't about me. So acoustic treatment, that's 100% what you should add next if it is a concern. I don't know if you need privacy from the other room at all, anything like that, but that's something to consider. This looks like you've got a little box here for hiding cables. It's an interesting idea. I usually see those on the floor. That makes sense on a desk as well. So you've got a little Pioneer, I think it is, mixer, another turntable, and maybe a CD player. I like these power strips. They're cool, like industrial kind of. I've got one made by Hammond, I think it is, that's mounted under my desk. But yours is like the European style, so you can't fit as many plugs on there. But I like how they're under the desk like that. It's a clean setup. I like that a lot. I don't know if you cleaned up specifically for the photos, but it looks good. It looks really good. I think this is a Rode Pod mic going into the Pioneer. And I know that you're about to upgrade a bunch of your equipment. I think that's awesome. It's cool stuff. That was Davi in the chat, their home studio. AKG headphones here, I think. Cool stuff. Yeah. Acoustic treatment, you might consider it. Maybe a big curtain across here to separate the rooms more, if that's a concern or if that's something you're interested in. If it's thick fabric, that can help with acoustic treatment quite a bit. Keep some of the sound from spilling into the other areas or reflections off of the wall behind you from bouncing off again from this big window here. So it can make a little bit of a difference. You can get like acoustic treatment panels with art on them, and then it would fit in with the aesthetics a little bit better than just, some plain color panels. You've got shelves and stuff on the wall, so it's a little tricky to completely treat that wall without taking all that stuff down. You could probably do ceiling pretty easily. I'm not going to recommend foam. If you can do rock wool panels above the desk, it improves the sound tremendously. Yeah, cool stuff. Next up, we've got Jason. Jason's setup, super minimal. I guess most of the stuff is in the computer. So Jason's got, I think, all of the Arturia stuff, most of the native instrument stuff, all the UVI stuff, kilohertz. Jason, you have an audio interface, or are you only the built-in? I asked you before those questions. You said, the setup is quite portable. I have a flight case for the laptop, audio interface, and cans. I also have a 61 key lab that has a flight case as well, in case, no case for the 88 key you see in the picture. Improving is get another office added to the house at some point. I used to have an office as a studio of sorts before the whole work from home thing got the wife using it. Not a deal breaker though, obviously don't have issues making tracks off the card table. So really the main thing that you need is space to be creative in. If you're getting tracks made on this totally minimal setup, I love it. I look at all the stuff that I have for my studio. I think about how I only ever use one input at a time, even though I've got 10 preamps or something like that. I don't use all my synths at the same time. I don't even turn them on most days. I've got way more stuff than I need. And when I had nothing, I was getting tracks out all the time. I was working on music every single day for hours. When I just had a laptop and FL Studio, no audio interface, I was getting so many tracks made. Now that I have all this gear, everything sounds better, I can make amazing stuff, I just don't. It's crazy how getting more gear doesn't make you more productive, at least for me. Once the essentials are covered, like Jason, I don't know if you have an audio interface. I see lots of Keylab essentials in these setups. Love it. I love that board. I've never owned an Arturia keyboard, but I'm always tempted. I've lusted over that white one with the wooden legs that they charge way too much for. But yeah, someday when I've got more space, more skills, maybe I'll get one of them. Jason, when I think of you, I think of that meme where there's like somebody who's took a picture from the waiting area at an airport, and you can see the pilot's got a laptop in Ableton, I think it was, or maybe FL Studio. Yeah, I love that. Dopamine said, I had to sell so much gear to pay bills. Now that I have a more minimal, totally minimal setup, I make 500% more music. I don't know. Sometimes the limitations are more inspiring, or maybe it's just like I noticed this when I went from like when I used to make videos, when I started using the camera for every video, I would have to like set it up and get it focused and stuff and just sit it on top of my monitor. When I was done making the video, I would have to pull out the SD card. I would have to charge the battery. And I don't know, I made like 200 videos that year. And then I switched over to using OBS for everything. And now everything's just like wired up and ready to go. And I make a lot fewer videos. If I wasn't doing a weekly live stream, I probably wouldn't make a video all summer. That's why the videos are mostly stream clips right now. Hey, Delovely's here. Gear has changed my game, but never all at once. I bought pieces one at a time as my found needs for them, or I try. Yeah, I've been impressed by the improvements over the past year that you've been posting photos on Twitter. So I hopefully you saw my my comments. We already looked at your photos if you just got here. But yeah, cool stuff. Thank you for sharing your photo. Not only just gear, you get more things done when you focus on Reaper and not learning 50 DAWs. I also spent way too much money on gear when I worked at Guitar Center because the discounts on gear was 99% of the reason I worked there. Yeah, that's why I have so much stuff from a pawn shop, because my wife gets a discount. It doesn't explain any of the reverb purchases, but definitely there's some impulse buys for things that I don't really need. But yeah, the discount makes a big difference. Thank you, Jason, for sending in your photo. We've got Chris Butler's studio, and I think we're going to focus on this photo is pretty much everything. It looks like a studio desk, like a desk sold as a studio desk. It's got the rack gear, the rack ears, I guess you would say. Chris, does this section here where you have your keyboard on it, is that pull out or is that fixed? I can't tell. I know that you've got a keyboard drawer that goes out over top of the keyboard. The typing keyboard pulls out over the piano keyboard. I think that's a really cool idea. It does seem like it's pulling down the middle of your desk a little bit. It's an OmniRax from the 90s. Okay. Yeah. Cool. In a way, it seems quite narrow. Oh, maybe it's the weight of those speakers. Those are the 8-inch speakers, right? HR 824s. They're pretty heavy. It's definitely bent in the middle. I was gonna say, and I wasn't sure why, but I think it's because there's no support in the middle where you have the keyboard drawer pulled out. And then it could be the weight of the speakers, the monitor and stuff like that. It's not a big deal that it looks tilted. I think it's probably time to upgrade your monitor. It looks like a pretty old, maybe 720p monitor. You could fit in a 27-inch or 30-inch 4K monitor there. Or not even 4K, like a 1440p. 1440p is my favorite resolution. I think everything looks nice and big and clear without having to deal with the high DPI headaches and stuff like that. Okay, so the questions, what's your favorite part of the studio? Or what do you like most about your studio? And what are you looking to improve? So you had some other photos here. Let's go back. Lots of older gear, these Tascam cassette and a DA30. That's a digital recorder. I don't remember what type of media that is. And then you've got an ADAT as well. Cool. PV LM8S. I don't know what that is. Line mixer. Cool. And you had some notes for the keyboards. You've got a Kurzweil PC88 MX expanded. Use it as a controller. The sounds are okay, but free VSTs are better. You've got a JD990 with expansion board and a few expansion cards for the front panel. A Roland JX8P, a Roland VK7, and an EMU Proteus MPS. I see some of those. I don't notice where the EMU is. It looks like you've got a lexicon something or other in this bottom rack. And I have to guess that the patch panels, the patch bays are unused. I also see a Casio SK1. That's that's one piece of gear that we have in common. 1080p and serving as the TV for the bedroom. There will be new one when this moves to my dedicated studio room when it's ready. Oh, okay, so you're working on a new studio. Cool. A DA30 MK2 DAT. Okay, digital audio tape. So it's a analog tape recording digitally. I've done transfer favors for people, so I keep those decks. Nice. Cool. Yeah, as long as they work, keep them. Okay, Reaper and the Tiny Nuck PC, my microphone collection, and the Apollo. Those, I didn't even see an Apollo. Oh, there it is, yeah. That's your favorite thing? The main thing you're improving is moving to another room, which will then be set up with acoustic treatment and all the rest. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next batch of photos. This is from Juan Carlos. Tons of acoustic treatment. Love this. Love to see it. Natural light and stuff like that. I think it is kind of dark in here in general. You can see it in his videos. Looks like Genelec monitors, multiple screen setup. I think it's 2 monitors here. It's a Dante setup for the audio interface. There's a machine there, I think, or that Ableton one. I can't remember what they're called. There was another photo on Discord. I guess there's just no overhead lights in this room or anything like that, so you have to work off lamps. Are you still here in the chat? He was here earlier. In the edited video, I'll put links to everyone's channels that submitted photos. So yeah, love the chair, love the desk, love the monitoring setup. It does seem a little bit low for the chair height, I would say. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just the angle of the photo. Tube traps, big cloud. I like that they're not just like, you know, black monoliths on the wall. Natural light, plants. Yeah, really nice big studio. You've got a sick ass bass. Awesome. Super cool stuff. Yeah, I love the tube traps. I wish I had the space for that, but yeah, it's awesome. I love that studio. Next, we've got Will Studio, who is Metal God in the chat right in here. Dopamine says, I hope you continue with the studio tour series, John. I can't wait to get you pictures of mine. Friend moved a studio to my house, so we have essentially a studio A-B type thing. First floor and third floor, we do a lot of music together. That sounds awesome. I would love to see that. We'll probably take a few weeks off from doing these. Well, I'll get a round 2 collection and we'll do it again. Will, if you're here, there you are. So you're calling this lo-fi. What do you like most about the studio? What do you want to improve? I can see lots of things to improve, but I don't want to roast you. This is the space you have, but I assume that this is work in progress. You've got some gear and you're trying to make it work. Just based on ergonomics or just based on like the setup with what you have, ignoring that this is a folding table in a basement and all that, I would make some suggestions for how you can improve this. So your monitoring is messed up the way this is. So ideally you want a 60-degree angle and a good distance apart. You want them to be equal distance away from the sidewalls. I think you're far enough away that that's not super relevant. But yeah, I would say they're probably too far apart for your setup and angled in too far. Because you've got the 2 monitors, they've got these huge bezels on them. You're not able to put them in the correct position. So what are your options? Separate monitor stands, like floor-mounted stands, so that you can get them into the right height, the right distance, the right angle without taking up any desk space. So if you can get those off the desk onto separate stands, that's a purchase that's probably about $60, I would guess. $40 to $60, you can get some basic stands. Maybe not have height adjustment, but that clears up about 2 square feet of desktop space, and you can get your monitors in the correct spot. Don't need to worry about them toppling off the side of the desk or anything like that. It seems like a very temporary setup, but I know that it's been a few months that you've had, at least a few months that you've had this setup. What was your last purchase for the studio? From most of the pictures I saw here, don't waste money on room treatment voodoo. Rather get good headphones, a good headphone amp, and headphone calibration software. I don't know. I hate wearing headphones all the time. Well, that's why I'm not wearing headphones now. I love mixing on speakers, and acoustic treatment is something that you can easily say is not worth it until you actually invest in it. And then it's like, I should have done that sooner, because it not only improves the sound of your mixes, but also everything that you record in. It's easier to have a conversation in a room that has acoustic treatment. It makes your microphone sound better, so it's doubly better. Listening to music on your speakers in an acoustically treated room sounds better. I wouldn't say it's voodoo at all. I think it's extremely practical and and just physics of sound. It's so important. After being in acoustically treated spaces and then trying to, like, at the studios at my school, and then going and mixing at home without any acoustic treatment, it's like just so much more difficult. And now I hate being in unacoustically or rooms without acoustic treatment. I hate it. Whether it's a bedroom or a bathroom or anything, it's like I hate that. I don't like mixing on headphones. I have good headphones. I can get a half decent mix on them, but I would definitely prioritize studio monitors. I've got Focal monitors and a Yamaha sub. I've got them at the right height, the right angle, and I have acoustic treatment. And yeah, I wouldn't want to go back. Every treated room sounds completely different. Defeating standing waves is voodoo. Nah. You've never had an issue wearing headphones for an extended period? I wear glasses, so it pushes in front of my ear and behind, and I'll get like a migraine pretty quickly. I'll also get like zits in my ears, or I'll get like, I don't know, headaches is the main thing. I'm not sure what else to say about Will's setup. Obviously, it's work in progress. One free thing that you can do to improve your sound in your room: get the speakers in the right spot, whether it's on the table. Spend a little bit and get them off the table onto separate stands. It will improve the sound of your audio. If you can set up in a way that your setup is lengthwise, so the speakers are facing the long dimension or on the long dimension of the room, that can make a difference. This room seems probably too big for that to work, so maybe not. It's an unfinished basement. It's not going to be an ideal situation, but those are some things you can do. To get a little bit of inexpensive acoustic treatment to help separate the empty areas of the room, you can use moving blankets and hang them from the ceiling as sort of temporary soft walls, and that can make a difference. They are in the long dimension. Okay, so just fix the angle. If you follow that angle, or if you use a measuring tape, they should be the same distance between tweeters in front of you as they are to you, or a little behind your head. But yeah, angle, distance, having the precise volume between them makes a huge difference. Yeah, cool. I mean, you're making it work in a less than ideal space, so it's all good. The tweeters are at ear height. I think it's just the angle. I don't think it's just the photo. This one here seems, I don't know, almost 90 degrees. So yeah, just be careful of that. It does make a huge difference. The table sucks. Surface is warped. Yeah, I would be afraid of all the stuff falling someday. I'm a little concerned by the pipes above you. Look at the control rooms at Criteria, Hit Factory, Untreated. The studios primarily rely on gobos. So many great records made in there. Right, that's a different situation though. That's a recording space, not a mixing space. The control rooms are untreated. I don't think so. I think the walls are probably 100% absorption. Most of the old studios, every wall surface that you see is just soft materials. Thank you, Will, for sending in the photos. Okay, so we've got Alejandro. Reaper Tips has sent in his setup. So I think he moved recently or in the past year. So he's got this. It's a really nice setup, honestly. I like the floor. I don't know what's going on, but stripes in the hardwood or the vinyl flooring. Cool desk. Seems modular. So there's a couple different parts, and it sits on this little filing cabinet. You've got books to get your keyboard fitting in there. Everything runs off a MacBook Pro, seems like, and is that an iPad to extend? Stream Deck XL. There is a little nano keys, I think it's called. Apple keyboard, Logitech mouse. Here's Alejandro's setup from 2 years ago. Same space, totally transformed by a new desk setup. The difference you can get from a little bit of new furniture. Studio monitors seem a little low. No acoustic treatment, or maybe there is actually. There's no bed in the corner anymore, but there is something here. Or maybe that is a mattress. But it looks like at least one acoustic panel there. I think probably, I don't remember what your angle behind you looks like, but in this old photo, you can see that this is probably a smaller room than it looks in these photos. But yeah, the lighting makes a huge difference. The new desk, I think this is a great setup. Triple monitor as well, which it's hard to make that work, but I think that the way this is set up works really well. I would probably raise the speakers. I think they're at an angle, which helps, but I would rather have them, parallel with the floor. Get a rug and a nice big acoustic cloud. Awesome, Alejandro. Thank you for sending that in. I like this little iPad holder. That's cool. Oh, there's a nice tip. Get your audio interface mounted under the desk. I'm not sure how you've mounted it. Maybe it's Velcro. Maybe it's... I've seen on Etsy you can get 3D printed brackets for that. But that's a good idea. Rather than like rack mounting things, sometimes just gluing it under the desk. It keeps it all accessible and cleans up the space. Love it. I think that's it. You did that under desk rack things on stage and a rack tray with double-sided tape that won't unstuck. Hang on one sec. I'll get something. So as a somewhat more permanent or heavy-duty option to Velcro or double-sided tape and things like that, I've bought this, which is steel strapping. And you can use this to make brackets. It has a bunch of holes in it. The holes every... It's a long strip, and there's holes every inch. And it comes in different thicknesses and widths and hole spacing, all that kind of stuff. I think it's $15 for 25 feet of this. I just got that, so I've only done that for one thing on the on my pedal board. But you can easily use that. Just cut it to length, screw it in, and you can mount a audio interface to something without damaging it. And it's steel, so it's not going to go anywhere. I like that there's little holes at different distances. Instead of just a single strap, you could have a second strap going from the middle to the little thing, make a little pocket out of steel, and put that under the desk. I'm interested to see how I'll use that for improving my setup, making little brackets. It's stiff enough that you could probably bend it into a shape and it'll stay. But yeah, I also want to try rivets and other things. I always forget how my rivet tool works. Every time I use it, it takes me like 5 tries to actually get one rivet to work. I don't know if it's just the tool or if I'm using the wrong things. They always just explode on me. So yeah, double-sided tape, Velcro, or the strapping stuff I would recommend for under desk mounting. I want to do that with my USB hubs and I don't know, maybe routers and stuff like that. I think that's all the studio photos. That's the main topic covered. That's all the little tips and stuff that I've got. Kind of thinking of making a video about some like really low cost improvements that I've made or things that I use in my studio that are really low cost that anyone can kind of get some benefits from. One thing I mentioned in the studio tour video was the little hooks for the cables. I found that to be really helpful over the past few months. I'll have a look around and see if there's other little things. Headphone hooks, what else? The yoga blocks, even something as simple as having a mug with tools and pens and stuff like that. Like, it's not genius, but are all your pens loose on your table? It's still an improvement. So I don't know. Maybe I can find like 10 things and make a little rapid fire video on that. If you've got some studio photos, you want to share it for an upcoming live stream. We've got another like 28 streams this year. We'll be doing it again. Thanks again to everyone that submitted photos today.